Jack Knight, 1605593.
Hannah Lindo, 1411350.
Ruby Kerridge, 1500512.
Angelina Nicolaides, 1512402.
Estelle Nordine, 1511242.
Marisha Komenitska, 1502104.
Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Estella. This is Marisha, Angelina, Jack, Hannah, and Ruby. We don't have a group name, but we still have a good foundation. So as part of the cultural entrepreneurship module, we were commissioned by Half Moon Theatre to act as external evaluators. We will be evaluating the impact of their youth sessions on the children that indeed take part, while measuring the difference that Half Moon Theatre can potentially make on young people's lives. Now, it's important to note that Half Moon Theatre is indeed developing impact measurement frameworks for evaluating their youth theatre. However, our contribution will ensure that the feedback given by the participants is unbiased or as unbiased as possible. Our project includes the creation of 2 workshops, one that is aimed at children from the ages of 5 to 7, and one that is aimed at children from the ages of 8 to 11. In these workshops, we will be exploring a participatory approach to gathering feedback from the children, making use of theatre games and techniques to stimulate the participants into articulating their opinions and feelings regarding Half Moon Theatre. These workshops will be documented by video and also by note-taking. We will be registering the group's reactions, engagements, and relevant moments of the session. This documentation will then be combined to our research of the local young people and Half Moon Theatre's premise and curriculum as a means of curating the feedback received. Finally, we will examine this feedback in relation to theories that state some of the values of creating and taking part in theatre for children in order to arrive at a clear, or perhaps clearer, conclusion of what the children indeed feel towards Half Moon Theatre. This will then be translated into a final report that will be passed on to Becky. Thank you. Marisha?
In order to immediately respond to this brief, we thought, okay, we need to do some research on the Half Moon Theatre. We found out that it's a community-based youth theatre for local children. And we also found it very interesting that it has a long waiting list in order to get into the youth theatre. This shows that the Half Moon Theatre is popular, but it also hints at the fact that the arts, the creative arts, is popular around the youth today. Like, it's really, really popular. And then after an insightful meeting with our commissioner, we found out that they're accepting and flexible to participants with disabilities, from like different ethnicities and backgrounds, which is something that we're very, very glad to hear, as we are from different backgrounds and ethnicities. So we can associate with the task a lot better. Another positive that sets the Half Moon Theatre aside from schools is their flexible curriculum. I can't give you a layout of their curriculum because it's so flexible. The children are usually given a stimuli to devise from using improvisation, and then from this they sometimes generate a script. The stimuli can be something from the child's own work, it can be anything at all, but if it isn't from the child's work, then Half Moon Theatre always consult the target audience before using it to make sure that it's relevant to the children. We love this kind of flexibility because it allows us to explore with different ways to engage with the children, and that's how we're going to try and to measure the impact of the youth theatre. And then following our conversation as well, we found out that the performances that the Half Moon do are not only performed by young people but also adults, but their audiences are always young people. They mostly focus on them, and they're very, very friendly families. Family friendly? I don't know how to say it, sorry. These are often the consistent, same audience members that they have, which has a sort of friendly, close vibe to it. And to develop this friendly vibe that they have, they like to host for other companies, but they also do their own performances. Sorry. Their performances that they do themselves like to focus on more real-life situations, more issues, instead of fairy tales or fake stories. This is quite nice because it's like the youth theatre is challenging things in the same way that we're challenging to measure the impact of youth theatres, which isn't very explored today. So hopefully we can develop that.
We've included this, let's call it a quote, on our PowerPoint because the first thing we thought of was, what direction are we going towards? And as we thought about how are we actually going to conduct this workshop, we began to think that what can we actually use to really measure the impacts of the arts, especially on children. So we started off by analyzing Half Moon's curriculum, sessions, and premise. Following this, we researched structured methods for the measurement of impact of the arts, hoping that we could potentially apply this to Half Moon Theatre's work. However, we soon come to realize that although there are several discourses around about impact measurement, there aren't any concise means to truthfully evaluate the impact of the arts, especially when it comes to children. We then decided to read books and start conducting all kinds of research, everything that had young audiences, children in theatre as a title, we probably read it. In Matthew Reason's book, The Young Audience, the author cites Kenneth Graham, whom in 1961 outlined 5 positive values of engaging children with theatre. And these were entertainment, psychological growth, educational exposure, aesthetic appreciation, and the development of the future audience. From this, we began asking questions. Do the children at Half Moon Theatre have fun during their sessions? Are they gaining skills such as confidence or problem solving? Are they learning new things? Do they know how to respond to a stimulus and read meaning in what they see? And as grown-ups, eventually, will they be coming to the theatre? Kenneth Graham's theories offered a platform, or in fact, a spectrum from which we could begin exploring the impact of Half Moon Theatre on their participants. Therefore, the activities and games that we will be using in our workshops have been adapted in relation to these values. We will tell you more about these now.
Yes, so when we looked at the 5 values that were outlined in Matthew Reason's book, entertainment was a very important and relevant one for us. Taking to the brief, we understood that we would be evaluating the impact of Half Moon Youth Theatre. Now, this piece of research suddenly began to put us in the right direction of what to look for, if the children find their sessions entertaining. If they do, what's there that's prompting them? Now, Arts Council England, which Half Moon has gained support from, their belief is that great art and culture inspires us, brings us together, and teaches us about ourselves and the world around us. In short, it makes our lives better. Now, whilst this did provide us with a little framework for our workshops to see if the children's lives have improved since attending Half Moon, it didn't give us all of the answers we needed. So to allow us to explore this further, we attended several sessions at Half Moon with yourself to see what the kids get up to. But before the session had even started, we were already getting our answers. The chalkboards that are in the lobby area, the arts and crafts supplies that kids can go up to and help themselves to, enabled them to play, to meet up with their friends, have a catch-up before even entering the session space. Then, when the time did come to start, they'd already had their little get-together, their little catch-up. They were already ready to get to work. Allowing the children to play, to choose, and pick what they were most interested in doing was clearly very entertaining for them. And that showed us how we can create a workshop that they can both enjoy and provide us with the information we needed to gather.
I looked at psychological growth, the value of psychological growth, and it means different things to different people. So in this sense, we related it to the children's understanding of themselves, developing their personal capacity and experiencing new things through their cognitive development. Children have the opportunity to mimic behaviours and verbally express themselves through half-moon theatre. Through playing with a variety of different characters, children learn how to use their imagination and make believe. Judith Case Policini, make sure I get that right, in her book Children's Theatre, speaks of children's theatre centering on the organic development of dramatic imagination as it functions internally and privately and as it expands into communicated form. Now, basically, I think that what she was trying to say here was that anything that we teach children can then be expressed through their language or their vocal abilities, through a boost of confidence and self-esteem. The interaction they have between the other participants and with the facilitators as well. And for myself, I think the most important thing that I found was the fact that they were building relationships with others around them and making sure that every child felt accepted and included. Linking this to their emotional and personal development, which is a key aspect of psychological growth. Then get a paper. Personal growth, which I think is important in terms of psychological, can be defined as activities that improve awareness and identity, developing talents and potentials, building human capital and facilitating employability, enhancing the quality of life and contributing to the realisation of dreams and aspirations through self-awareness and improving the child's self-knowledge.
Right, so I researched more about educational exposure to theatre. So, half-moon theatre is not really based on theatre and education, as theatre and education uses common issues in the form of theatre. Half-moon theatre is more of a learning experience, how to build confidence and getting children to feel more comfortable in a theatre setting. So that's the aim. When it comes to children's theatre, there is always an effort to make it more about theatre itself. Make it more about theatre itself, making it educational and to benefit the children somehow. However, half-moon theatre does not fall into any of these categories. There is not a particular emphasis on teaching children a particular curriculum. Instead, children are invited to contribute with their own ideas and creativity. Half-moon theatre also exposes children to different cultures, as there is a mixture of ethnicities attending the workshop. It is also about enjoying drama and learning more about it. There may be a couple of workshops to support theatre and education, but overall it is difficult to link half-moon theatre with theatre and education. So we have the quote, everything educates. So in day-to-day life, this can be socially, talking with friends. These days, children learn from everything. This links with nature versus nurture. In this sense, that nurture is the behaviour learned from home, so with family, versus nurture, behaviours learned from society. Learning how other children act around each other may influence another child.
And the fourth thing in Reason's book was aesthetic appreciation. Now, this one was quite difficult, so I looked back through Reason's book, and I realised that he used Lutley and Demery to highlight that theatre for young audiences is theatre, not simplified adult theatre. Children are not simplified adults, but theatre of the kind which we have come to believe is right for young children. This conveys that the half-moon theatre are experts in their field, as they attempt to stay away from fairy tale stories, which are stories that children are always exposed to. And they strive to create new performances to explore real-life conditions and situations that are relevant to the children in the way that children can understand, relate to, and just explore with. And then, one of my quotes, Leonard Cohen introduces 10 different definitions of aesthetics, because it's a very difficult term to catch down. In his book, Reason paraphrases him, saying, "Place and nature of beauty and other dimensions of artistic quality." The Half Moon Theatre explore this aesthetic by having artwork on the walls, chalkboards, very colourful and stylistic furniture, arts and crafts, materials, and puppets to explore and develop the young people's artistic quality. They also ensure that the workshop spaces don't have any distractions to keep them engaged in their art. Another definition that he mentions in his book is cognitive mode, and the intimate relationship between the audience participatory performance and the subjectivity of the participant. And Half Moon Theatre's participants are obviously the young people, who, as we've been to visit them, we've seen that they're really excited and happy to see their facilitators, because the facilitators are so friendly and very, very energetic, and it's so nice to see. We have observed so far that the children feel included and engaged in the Half Moon Theatre. As we have mentioned, they include people with disabilities and from ethnic minorities. Their appreciation of the aesthetics begin from being able to shape their theatre. They are considered and their ideas are acknowledged. The children are of an age where their surroundings deepen their learnings and creativities to explore new ideas.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the development of future audiences. Matthew Reason states that engaging young audience today, we are also engaging the adult audience of the future. In this chapter, Jonathan Levy suggests that children in a theatre are a captive audience. They do not choose to come, they are brought. Now, if we relate this to Half Moon Theatre, when they start at the age 5, yes, it is possible that some of the parents could come along and here you go, here is my child for an hour. But if we look at Half Moon, if this were the case, then as you go up in the age groups in the theatre, you would see that the participants decrease in numbers because people aren't enjoying it. But because of the popularity and the sheer demand, it shows that this isn't the case, that they are not a captive audience. As Becky mentioned at our first meeting, this theatre is never for the sake of being. It is invested by the various other qualities and purposes that will somehow do well for the children concerned and for their future within the arts. When we look at what children can potentially gain, if we think about confidence, if we think about creativity, being exposed to theories and methodologies, then children can learn to appreciate and take meaning from the arts. This is where future audience comes in. They become future audiences in theatre because Half Moon Theatre have given them the skills to appreciate theatre and arts. Half Moon Theatre also supports the youth theatre participants after all of their sessions throughout their career in the arts.
So, as a part of our research, we attended several workshops at Half Moon Theatre. Whilst in their sessions, we became familiar with the children, the space, and the facilitators. We took particular interest in the games and activities during these sessions, as well as the relationship between the facilitators and the children. This contributed to a better insight on Half Moon's work with children, and from there we gathered information on different materials we can use for our own workshops.
And I'm now going to talk about our group and how we've worked together. Now, in the book Events Management by Bowden et al., he states that a successful event will rely on members of the group being given specific roles. However, our group hasn't followed that methodology. We agreed initially that Jack would be the correspondent between himself and Becky. However, we were all CC'd into the email, so we were all aware of what's happening, what's the communication. Everybody has been a part of this process without one person being the manager or one person delegating roles for everybody else. We've taken the quote equity rather than equality because we feel that not everybody should be given the same amount. Everybody should play to their strengths. For example, Estella is very good at looking at theories, looking at theorists and methodologies, so she has taken the role of this. However, we've all looked at research, we've all looked at theories and we've helped her along with this, but she's been the main person. And just spoken about the visits because we wanted to understand as a group about our participants and the space that we would be working in. From the beginning, it was clear that we wanted to watch and participate in the workshops, so we went in twos to visit the theatre. We then spoke about our experiences in the group meeting. Overall, we've worked really well together helping each other to understand the brief commission and to bring forward ideas to then develop into our workshop. We've met up frequently and I've been documenting the process of developing our ideas. Finally, Bowden describes a project manager as being able to work and develop as a team, deliver quality, be strategic, undertake risk assessment, have a high level of communication, have progress reports, knowledge of similar events, which we have all individually and together completed as a team. Yeah.
We have put together. Do you like it? We put together skills that we feel that each of us could bring to the workshop. So Ruby's spoken about the skills that we brought to our group work, and now it's about the skills that we were able to bring, that we feel that we're able to bring to the children. I'm going to start from the top. So Angelina is a positive person, has previous experience facilitating, and has experience working with children. She's qualified to work with vulnerable individuals, and she's very enthusiastic about the task. Estella has also had previous experience facilitating. She loves research and theory, which works perfect for us. She's also a performer. She has a high level of interest in the task that we're going to be completing, and she's got previous leadership skills. Myself, I have previous experience as a facilitator. I have written previous curriculum plans. I've worked with vulnerable children and adults. I'm also a performer myself, and I have a vast knowledge and qualification in child development. Jack? He's done voluntary work. He's done amateur dramatics. He's also done facilitating. He's worked with young children as well, volunteering, and is also a performer. Marisha, a performer as well, and previous work with children. She's also facilitated, and she's very excited about the task that we're about to complete. And last but no means least, Ruby, also facilitated in previous workshops and skills. She's also a performer. She's done voluntary work with vulnerable individuals, and she's very confident and excited about the task at hand.
When it came to sourcing ideas and constructing an actual plan for the workshop itself, we looked back at the brief for something to focus on, and that's when we really honed into a participatory approach to gathering feedback from the children. Now, clearly this was telling us we needed to do something more than just come in, sit the children down and ask them a few questions. Prior to our visits, we had come up with initial ideas of how the workshop could be conducted and what it would contain. However, it was after we attended Eclipse, Equinox and Moonbeam sessions that we knew what we needed to do. Parts of those sessions were to play games with the children, such as Ollie Ollie Octopus and Splat. Games that we had some prior knowledge to back in previous work throughout the years. That's what gave us the idea of turning these games into a consultation hybrid, a way of playing with the children that enables them to tell us about their time, their experience and their pleasure at Half Moon Theatre whilst enjoying themselves. We were then coming up with so many different altered games to choose from, and whilst the end workshop details have yet to be completely finalised, we are considering games like The Sun Shines On and Waiter's Plates. The working idea currently is that we shall split into 2 teams of 3 and conducting 2 separate workshops. The first team, consisting of Estella, Angelina and Ruby, will take an hour with the group of 5 to 7, and the second team, being myself, Hannah and Marisha, will have an hour and a half with the 8 to 11. We're hoping for a number of around 15 participants in each workshop, depending on what can happen. Only the reason being to keep it a very personal session, but also enough variety of responses. 1 member will take the role of lead facilitator, 1 member will be a support co-facilitator, whilst the last member will operate the video recorder and take notes and timestamps. But there is the scope that each team can work on a rotating basis, so 1 person who leads the workshops can then rotate onto a different task. The workshop themselves will consist of introductory name games, ice-breaking activities and drama games that are purely fun to begin with before going into a consultation phase, and we'll tell you just a little bit more in just a little while. Afterwards, we'll then move on to the main activity. Now, giving the children a tiny little basket like this is purely for demonstration at the moment. They will be going to shop at the Half Moon Theatre Development and Skills School. In these stores will be things Half Moon offers and hopes to impart to the children, who will then have the option to place any of the items in the stores into their baskets. We may find that each child wants to take one of every positive item, that they want other things to be able to pick from. The majority of items are going to be positive aspects, such as their growth of confidence, their introduction to creative abilities and so on. However, we are considering having one or two negative items that may give them the opportunity to say something about Half Moon that they may not be too comfortable saying to anybody else. Then, once everybody is satisfied with the items in their basket, we'd like them to come together and share one item that they chose and try to say why. Now, this game is the perfect solution for the 5 to 7 group, but for the 8 to 11, we'll be doing something very similar, but something a little more engaging and a little more exploratory with the way it's played. But right now, we'd like to just have a demonstration, a tiny demonstration, so I'll pass you on over to Ruby.
So because we've kind of run out of time, I'm just going to talk quickly over what we would do. So as you're well aware, Becky, one of their favourite games is Ollie Ollie Octopus. So
It's everyone's favourite.
yeah. So what we want to do is we want to play this game and initially start it with how they know it. So it is somebody stands in the middle, they say run to the other end if you're wearing blue jeans. If you're wearing blue jeans, they run to the other end. And then once everybody has either been out or finished, then we will have the co-facilitator become Ollie Ollie Octopus and start it again as blue jeans, and then putting in some consultation spins in there. So move if you love coming to the Half Moon, and then everybody who loves coming out to the Half Moon will try get by Ollie Ollie Octopus. And it's a way for us to break the ice with them, to have a bit of fun, play some games with them so they can get comfortable with us and they don't think that we're just purely here to evaluate them and to get this awkwardness between us. So that's what we're hoping to play.
Thank you very much. Over to Becky for some questions.
Great. Yeah, so I thought that was really good, guys. I have to say that it was also very emotional listening to that. It's very, I could have cried at one point. It was so lovely to hear some people who've only just found out about Half Moon, quite recently, and discuss it in such detail, and obviously feel quite passionate about it as well. That's very touching. So thank you for that. I was a bit critical of one bit, and then you explored it much further later. So when people, that person who'd written in the 60s or something, when people talk about we work with young people because they are the audiences of the future, you totally went back, you interrogated that later. But there are plenty of organisations who work with young people because they consider that that they're preparing them to be adult audiences, whereas you definitely then went on to say that they are the audiences of now. The way that they feel about theatre now is just as important as how they might feel about theatre in the future. And you mentioned it a little bit as well about the fact that young people are artists themselves, and the art that they create is as important as the art that students at university make on their journey to becoming professional artists. So that was great that you talked about that. There's potentially some stuff that you could look at that's currently in the media at the moment about what is theatre for young audiences. So you've looked at a lot of theory, and that's excellent and brilliant and was very informative for me, who didn't study this kind of stuff at university. But if you potentially look at some websites of TYA England, so Theatre for Young Audiences England, and also, you looked at the Arts Council, maybe if you go into a little bit more about what the Arts Council says about theatre for young audiences, because there are even people now who are running the children's theatre for the National Children's Theatre, who say that there isn't anything particular about theatre for young audiences, and that is quite difficult for those who've been arguing for the last 25 years that TYA is a specific genre. And so you might just be interested in kind of thinking about some of the very current narratives about that and what people are responding to. And the Society for Children's Arts has launched a campaign about why schools aren't taking young people to the theatre as much, because there is a problem at the moment, although we all know the benefits of the arts. You alluded to it quite a bit about I think you alluded to it in your presentation about the fact that there's this narrative at the moment that's saying we're destroying young people by making them do creative arts subjects. They'll never ever be able to get a job as an engineer ever if they are able to think outside the box. So just potentially look at some of those. But I thought all of that was excellent. And I just need to know the times of your workshops so that I can get 15 participants.
Brilliant.
So that's good.
I'm just curious, will you be producing a plan? I get you've given us a kind of flavour of the kind of activities you're using. I think it might be interesting for Becky as well to sort of see the plan of what you're planning to do.
I think we're very close to finalising what the actual workshops will contain.
And I'm interested to see, I think, some of the links between the theory that you were looking at and the actual activities and how you want to document and evaluate. We will see in your workshop, because I'll be there of course, how that works, but I'm curious as to how your research is travelling into those activities and into the way you're documenting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah.
One is, so where did you get these statements from?
They were just things that we thought, they're things that Harvey say that they try to bring out of children. So I looked at the psychological growth of children, and I looked at the type of things that are to be gained through children's theatre.
There were also a few, we were helpfully given a few forum meetings, transcriptions, some of the things that the children had fed back to their facilitators, their teachers, were a few of the items that were going to be put in the schools.
There are going to be 15 items, there are going to be 15 different items, and some of them 20 items, 15 children. 20 items, 15 children, and they're all going to be things from the forum and from our research into children's theatre as to what it's supposed to do for children, essentially.
That's interesting. Okay. And then the other question is, will you be using any participative drama in the workshops?
I suppose.
Because well, it's a way of researching, working with children. I mean, you don't have to, I'm just offering it. It's what's come over for me listening to you is that you really get the whole sort of methodology of how, I think that was just so lovely, how the Half Moon work, what's going on in those workshops is clearly really creative and very much around, you said, they're devising, so they're really using very, participative drama, tasks and things. So that's the language that they're used to when they go to the Half Moon. So I just wondered whether you might want to use drama.
So in our workshops we'll be making use of drama games and things that we've actually seen in their workshops. So for example, Ollie on the Octopus, that's a game that the children will be familiar to. It's a drama game, and we're adapting it to honour both the theory and the brief. And we're doing that with Waiter's Plate as well. And even the shop idea, this will all be framed as a drama game. But instead of making it something that's very firm, as in the children have to sit down and write what they like or don't like, or instead of making it something very vague and everyone has to perhaps draw a picture of what they think of Half Moon, we're actually getting them to get on their feet and show us what it is about Half Moon.
Can I just say one little? So I hear that, and that's a brilliant response. But I think a game is different. A game is a game, and it's totally valued. But I think in terms of them respond. I suppose it's similar to the other group. Rather than responding through these words that I'm articulating, there might be a more physical, embodied way of that they might be used to, or a different way of responding.
It's
that might allow them
worth
more
looking
open.
into.
Yeah.
Because
So
I
that's
think
what-
when we decided on the consultation hybrid, we got very hung up on that idea that we stopped looking for other ways to gain. So that is very helpful for us because there are other avenues to go down.
Okay.
So thank you.
Well done, well done, both groups. Well done.
Yeah, well done. A round of applause for
Brilliant.
Thank you. It's ongoing conversation, I think, and that's what this presentation is all about.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Zoe and I, of course, will be conferring about your mark with your commissioners, but now is a time for you to speak to your commissioners a little bit, perhaps get some more detailed feedback, for them to perhaps offer some more suggestions and so forth. So that'll be for the next 20 minutes or so. Just also to say, perhaps I didn't ask for any last questions, Karen, or any observations from yourself on that last piece.
Only that I think that it's definitely the name of the game, evaluation and impact evaluation. So I'm getting a lot of it in my job, or how can you show the impact of your work. So I absolutely adored these visualisations. I thought they were, it's a much easier way, not just for children, but I think it could work for students in certain ways.
That'd be a bit more fun, wouldn't it?
It would. I think it would encourage much more kind of exploration of what you can have with it. And that made me feel a lot better because the scary career advisory in the first session made me stop to think a little bit. So. Thank you.
And thank you as well to all of you, because there's lots of ways. I mean, this is the first time we've run the module like this with external partners in quite the same way. So this has been a pilot. Well done students, because this has been a pilot, although I've run it elsewhere with the different universities, I said, but we're very grateful to our commissioners and to Karen as well. So this is hopefully a seed that will grow stronger, and hopefully internally we'll do that as well. But for now, over to you. 20 minutes or so with your hosts. Thank you very much.
Grab notes.
I guess that'd be great.
Email it. Yeah, I can do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have allowed time for you at the end.
Thanks, alright. Oh, is that right? You sure you don't need it? Amazing. So is the intention to give every student one of these to take? Sorry. It was really insightful for us. I think Sean and I were comparing quite the intro. We did that. So we've learned so much from you guys. Yeah. So
So we are planning for the first workshop to be the hour long.
yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you. That's really great. And it was really interesting to hear how they liked it. I love your name. I think I wrote down right at the beginning that it totally represents what your team objective is. So that's fantastic. And I think it gives you a bit of personality when you first meet the students, introducing who you are as a team, as opposed to just, we're just which actually is part of our course. Yeah. And I think you should definitely do that when you introduce yourself to the students. So I guess one of my comments, at first it came across a little bit confusing when you referred to Frankie as they. And I know, I think from our perspective, what you were getting at, and because we'd seen the presentation and you'd explained that Frankie was gender neutral, but it's just from perhaps the student's perspective. I did like the way that you portrayed it, and I got that you have, the positive elements and the enthusiasm, and then there's sort of the worried and the, a little bit more negative about yourself. And so you've got two sides to your personality that is conflicting. But it's just perhaps in your introduction, giving the students that insight and why you've done it that way, so that they're on board straight away, as opposed to saying, "Oh, did anyone notice that?" What do you think that represented? You probably don't need to go